Those of you on YouTube, so we just stopped by for a few moments to have a conversation. Had a few people that have asked about some engagements between Eric and I about how we have reset. So today, we wanted to come on, have a quick discussion. Hopefully you can join, and then we'll share a few things. One of the pieces that we know we needed to do to get started again and resetting is being clear about who we are. So, babe, share with people, how do you know who you are if you find yourself in a position where you got to start again?
How do I know who I am?
Yeah.
I never forget who I am. I'm God's son. I'm a man. I just know who I am. I'm confident. That's one thing about me. I'm never confused about who I am. I may not know what I'm doing all the time, but I know who I am. So that's where I am with that. I know what I want and that kind of thing. So knowing who I am is never a question for me. It's just navigating life and situations. So it may look different to other people. They may say, well, who is he? But I know who I am. I'm a confident man. I'm a mentor. I'm a coach. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a good brother. All those things are me. I know those things. It's just whatever situation arises, how do I handle it? That's the question. So if you give me a situation, I can tell you how to handle it or how I would handle it. And maybe that'll tell somebody else who I am.
Well, I know one of the things that I have several people to ask as you watch the Red Alert Diaries podcast or join us in a couple of different pieces, most of the time when we're having discussions, it's because of people that found themselves in a situation where they got to reset professionally or personally. I
Mm,
speak to divorcees initially because it was after the chaos of my divorce that I had to figure out who I was.
okay.
And knowing who I was gave me the chance to begin again.
Okay.
And you, I know,
Ah,
been divorced and remarried again. It's a
yeah.
beautiful thing for me. So help some individual, because we're not going to stay on very long. But if you have some comments, questions, or thoughts, and you find that this may be helpful, put that in the comments. Let us know, and we'll continue to do it. But give someone one idea from the reset that you and I both have had after your divorce. You've already been clear, which where your statement is, but I had to begin again. If you find somebody there, maybe start with sharing with how you supported me in beginning again.
Well, I had to begin again. Your question to me was, who am I? But I knew what I wanted. I knew what I'd been through. I knew what I experienced. So I knew what I didn't want. So when I saw you, when I met you, I was like, wow. First thing I saw was the physical. I just think that's everybody. They can say no, but I think the first thing you recognize is the physical. And I like that part. But then I had to try to get to know you with the knowledge that I had been hurt before, I'd been not appreciated before. So those are things that I didn't want to deal with anymore. I knew I was a good guy. I knew I gave all I could. So I needed somebody to match that energy, somebody that would appreciate me, understand the sacrifices that I was willing to make for them, that would treat me right, that would accept the love I had for them. So first, you do have to, I think you do have to know who you are, know what it is you want, know what you're bringing to the table, know what things you're not going to accept, be it from experience or just things you just never desired to have in your life, and start with there. But I wouldn't go searching. That I didn't do, because I picked before and picked wrong. So I wasn't going to do that one. I just trusted that God was going to lead me to who He wanted me to have because that was a conversation we had. I told God, let me know if He ever want me to love again, make it real clear to me because if not, I was going to do something totally different. And that's not what He wanted. So.
No, that would not have been nice. So, one of the reasons why my husband is joining me on this first set of reset strategies is to answer questions. So, if you have any questions about the possibility of what it means to reset, begin again with first knowing who you are, because that's one of the things I think is a key components in beginning again and resetting your life. And there are strategies that you can use to discover who you are. One of the things that I know I had to do, especially, was just pause and write down everything I knew to be true about who I am. I knew as a daughter of the king, yes, thinking that God is there, but I've always had what some of you know is my religious roller coaster ride. Yes, I knew God was real. Yes, I knew God made me, but I didn't think God was a real strategy for me to know who I was. So I decided to ask everybody around me one question. What is it that comes to mind when you think of me, and just give me one word. And I strongly encourage you to tell people to give you one word, because if you don't say that, you'll get a barrage of stuff and
I
it'll
ain't gonna
be
still give you a
hard.
sentence.
You'll still get a sentence, but one word from the people that you know in your world will give you a start. That's where I started. It gave me an idea that one, the words that people were giving me was not supportive of me. So I had to dig a little bit deeper. Why? So start first. One strategy. Ask those around you for one word to describe you. What strategy would you give someone?
First, you said, like you said, know yourself. I already said know what it is you want and what you don't want. But it's important to know what people think about you. Not that you have to go and try to be who they say, but it gives you a starting point. But getting to know yourself is important. And this is something I did years ago. And that's probably why I was so confident about who I was. I looked in the mirror, and to look in the mirror and face you and tell you that you don't like you is tough. And that's where I made my changes. So I knew I was a good guy. I knew I was hardworking. I knew all those things because I had already been down that road. So now my thing was just staying confident. And that I was. I was very confident. I was patient. I wasn't going to rush into love again. I wanted to love because there's a lot of love in me, but I couldn't rush that process. So understand that it's a process.
That part.
Don't be overly eager. Don't be hungry, thirsty, whatever the words they use these days. Don't be none of those things. Be patient because you have to look out for yourself. And you got to be considerate of the person that you may be bringing into your world. So know what you want, know what you don't want. Be patient, take your time, and just have fun with it. Because I know this person real well. They told me that they used to date a lot of different people because they were trying to figure out what they liked. So,
Ooh, I want to talk about that. So here's the thing. For several individuals, when you find yourself trying to figure out how to go through relationships, or you found yourself in a relationship that wasn't going so well, and you just decide the best way to get over an old boo is to get with a new boo. That was none of the reasons why I was dating. So my beginning phase was what my grandmother told me. She said, dating is just simply getting to know the things that you like. So my 17-year-old self decided, okay, dating is just getting to know what you like. It did not mean giving your cookies away. So all I did was decide, where would I like to go eat? What place would I like to go visit? And after a while, I learned at 17 years old that there were a lot of guys that just did not want to just go places. So some of them were what I call 1 week wonders. 1 week later, I'm wondering why I even talk to you. 1 week later, I'm wondering why we're even trying to do this thing. So I ended up in a cycle where I dated a lot of different people because I had to also use that as research. Research to decide who I really wanted to be a part of my world. Research to decide what I truly wanted. So as time went along, I had great places I like to eat, different places I wanted to go for different things. Dating is just getting to know. And in this day and age, too many people in our adulthood complicate it. Don't complicate it.
keep it
Just make
simple.
things fun. Talk about that a little bit.
Or keeping it simple.
You can keep it simple. Talk about
Yeah.
dating, your
Well,
part with dating.
I dated, well, I never really said it like this. You've said this before, but I would go places by myself. I like me. I am fun. Being by myself doesn't bother me as far as spending time because I'm now comfortable with who I am. And so I like doing things by myself. So I would go out, get something to eat, and people look at you like you're strange when you sit by yourself. But as long as the food was good, I was all right,
I
you
had to
know?
learn
And
that part.
so I didn't want to be stuck up in a house being a hermit. I wanted to still live my life. It was still things I love. I love to go out and eat my chicken wings and French fries and things like that. So I would go do stuff like that. I'd hang out with my boys every once in a while. Little things like that. I never did a lot of hanging out in the street, but I wasn't going to just shut myself down. I still had to live. And in living, I figured that when God was ready, He would send us right along. And so I kept along my daily, still coaching, everything I was always doing. I just didn't have like that constant love in my life at that time. And so, in searching of that or in waiting for that to happen, I just kept living life. I stayed positive, you know. Yeah, you dwell on the negatives every once in a while because something will come up and remind you of something like that, but kick that out of your head as quick as you can because the more positivity that you keep in your head, the better off you're going to be. So that's kind of my thing. So negatives are always going to be around you. You know, somebody will say something or somebody run up to you and say, "Well, hey, I saw so and so and they asked about you." I don't want to hear that. I don't
The
care.
people that just want to be nosy,
Yeah.
disguising it as being concerned.
Yeah, those
Those people.
people, you know, and they're always going to be there because they don't have a life, you know, and so they want you to stay down in the dumps with them. Block all that. You have to make sure you're looking out for yourself, and it is a process. It's a healing process, and it's something that you have to take some serious time to get through because everybody's journey path is different. You know, depends on their level of hurt, what they've experienced, what they've gone through, what it is they want out of life, what kind of partner are they looking for. All of those different things play a factor. So it's an individual thing. So it's no cookie cutter answer for everybody. That's why it's important if you guys are listening and you have questions, fire your questions away so we can address those directly to you and go from that point. So,
Yeah, because one of the things that's available on this YouTube channel is the podcast, Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Hood. That's a general statement that I share so that you can get some touch points because of things that people have asked. But we started doing this live encounter. Some of you that have participated in the past know that we did a Red Alert Diaries live. Things have changed and I've adjusted that for the new season, but I wanted to be more specific and more strategic because I've been asked about some reset strategies. So this is your opportunity. If you're watching this on replay, leave your comments here. And the next time we do it, we can address those questions that we see from this one or future ones as you join us. And if you want to take a moment to join us live so that you can participate and we can see you and have conversations for your specific need, leave that in the comments to let us know also for the next one. Be invited to. So I want to leave one last thing because this was just a quick touch base. We're not going to stay in long. We want to leave you with something that you can support as a support system or strategy for now. So the dating thing came up with dating and doing it for yourself. I did the dating by myself. Now, I wasn't one of those individuals that was real comfortable dating by myself, eating alone and all those things. But what helped me was with the reset because I shared earlier that it took me and God a minute to discover, okay. But when I came to the decision that Jesus loved me because he made me, and as I continued to look inside of his book, he gave me some really clear things about me in his book. And one of the things that made me feel real good about resetting Tanya, loving Tanya more, being present for Tanya more, whether there was another person or not that showed up. If I loved me the way God loved me, I will be okay.
mm,
And I found that in Ephesians 2:10, where God says, I'm a masterpiece. But when you read the Bible and you're reading it, he says it for you too. But in that moment, at that time for me, oh, I needed to know because my divorce left me broke and broken. I didn't love me, I didn't know me, and I was struggling to discover. And it was in that struggle to rediscover who am I without this relationship? Who am I not being wife? Who am I without the lifestyle that I had created at that time in that relationship? I didn't know. And I found when I did an autopsy on my divorce, and I encourage you, if you're in a similar situation, do an autopsy on the things in your life that are causing you to make you feel some type of way.
mm,
Because that marriage ending had really nothing to do with the marriage ending. It was a catalyst that was compounded on other things that Tanya never took the time to appreciate herself. So when God said that I was a masterpiece, I was reminded that in my brokenness, I am still loved. I was reminded that in my pain, there is still a purpose. I was reminded of some amazing things about being clear about who I am from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. And we want you to do the same. So before we close out, you have any?
yeah, this I'm gonna add this little piece because I had to fight not changing who I was because I've been taken advantage of, because I was not appreciated. I didn't want to fall back into less than who I was and stop being those things. And that was a big thing for me because when you have a good heart and great intentions all the time, sometimes people put you in a box of you're too consistent and they start to believe that you can't ever go outside of whatever box they put you in because you're always this way. but that's the only way I knew to be. See, when I was younger, I used to frown all the time, and I was accused of being angry. Why do you always frown? I didn't know what to answer. So I started smiling all the time. And then I got accused of being up to something because I smiled all the time. I couldn't win. So I decided to be who I was going to be. I was friendly. I was nice. I'll be there for you. I'll give you the shirt off my back. That's just who I am. And people like that sometimes get taken advantage of if they run wrong across the wrong people. And that kept happening for me. And so it makes you angry, makes you feel abused or used. And if I didn't have the right mindset, I could have turned that into being somebody negative and me wanting to go and take that out on somebody else. That was my biggest thing for resetting. I couldn't change who I was. I couldn't go back to where I'd grown from. I got to go forward. And so that was a big thing for me because, man, being taken advantage of and not appreciated ain't fun. I don't know what kind of pains you going through, but that hurt me because I knew what kind of heart I had. I'm not the type of guy to stay to myself. And I realized that because I have so much love in me. If I don't get it out, I'm going to explode. So I have to share that. And I think that's what God wants me to do. But I had to do it his way because I was tired of taking them hits and I was just going to go out and just share it the way I wanted to share it. And that's not his plan. So I had to keep the PG version here. So that's whew, that's
Thank you.
another story.
Thank you very much.
But that was my thing, maintaining who I am, who I to come, come to be at that point. Because people can knock you down and can make you change who you are if you're not strong enough mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And that was my biggest thing. I took another hit. Maybe I stopped being such a nice guy. Maybe I shouldn't care no more and just do whatever, be willy-nilly. Wasn't in my character. And God knew that. So when I proposed to him an alternate way of being, he's kind of slapped me upside my head and was like, no, I brought you too far. So got a little heavenly correction there. So that was my biggest thing was that stay who you are. Work to get better, but don't go backwards. Don't do that. Don't let people change you. And I've seen a little quote on that. It's like, don't let the behavior of others change how it goes. But change steal your joy or whatever it is, or change your pleasant personality. Don't let them do that because people will if you let them. Don't give them that power.
And so, with this reset strategy, we're hoping that it supports you and looking forward to seeing you next time. Take care, everyone.
Take care.